We're on air.
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to another edition of The Lap Down. I am your host, Greg Farmer, and with me tonight is Tyler, Ryan, Jamie, and JP making his return. Fellas, how are we doing on this beautiful Tuesday evening?
I'm
Doing well.
I'm doing fantastic. How about you guys?
Doing well. Um, Before we get started, as always, a big thank you to Will and the Alkali Project for the intro and outro music on the show. Please be sure to check out their music wherever you stream. We are going to kick it off with a little bit of breaking news that just dropped within the last 30 minutes. Spire Motorsports has fined Carson Hocevar $50,000 and is forcing him to conduct sensitivity training for comments that he made on a live stream about Mexico, calling it a quote S-hole. Trying not to keep it a little more PG tonight, among other things. And that money that comes from the fine will be divvied up between 3 different Mexican charities. Carson did make a public apology yesterday, it was yesterday, about his remarks. But we get your guys' thoughts on this. Is this a good move for Spire to try to maybe teach Carson somewhat of a lesson as he's still learning his way in the Cup Series, starting with Tyler?
My personal opinion, I mean, as much as I hate that, the $50,000 fine, I think they should have fined him a little bit more. Docked him some points, maybe docked him like 10 points and suspended him for a race because there is no room for derogatory marks like that, especially being a professional race car driver who just raced in your country. There's no room for that. You are a professional. I think Spire is being too lenient on him, in my personal opinion.
Well, but I do have one kind of counterpoint to that, though. If this is Spire doing the penalty, I don't know if Spire has the authority to dock points. If it was a NASCAR penalty, then yeah, NASCAR has the authority to dock points. But
maybe not the points, but I still think Spire should have suspended him for a race just to say, hey, you can't do that.
Again, at that point, I think you're almost being overly harsh. Again, I don't think that those kinds of comments have any say on it, but also how often do drivers speak that of tracks like Texas or other tracks? I mean, Kyle Busch is talking about going to a real racetrack once we finally get out of Daytona.
But he was talking about the country as a whole.
Okay.
He was talking about the country as a whole if you reread it.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
To be fair, if my memory serves correct, this might be the first time I've ever actually seen a team penalize a driver and not NASCAR, the sanctioning body. So I think, this, with this being the first time, I think maybe it was the right penalty to try to set the precedent, if you will.
I mean, if the fine had been higher, I also wouldn't be calling it like an overreach if they went and penalized him more. If they fined him an extra, say $25,000, made it a $75,000 fine.
I'm still on the boat, even though I do agree to an extent, but I still think maybe suspending a race just to say hey, look, you can't do that. You got to watch what you're saying. You're a professional. I'm not saying
especially when it's a first offense. I think that would be a little on the harsh side. I mean, yeah, it would be setting a very harsh precedent, but
yeah,
it wouldn't. But it would teach people not to keep their mouths in check, especially because of Haley Deegan having to do the same thing. Kyle Busch had to do the same thing, and we all know what happened with Kyle Larson in 2020. So that I think that Spire's being a little too.
Yeah, didn't Kyle Larson get a promotion after that though?
That is true. Yeah.
Just saying that Kyle Larson did kind of get promoted after
that is true.
Sitting out for a year.
That is true. He did.
But also,
let's not bring up Kyle Larson in this, just because
of his
mistake that he had is severely worse.
Yeah,
right.
Talking about the area of which a racetrack is. there's no comparisons between those two.
Okay,
So
that's fair. I will retract that a little bit.
yeah, I'm all for judging it, like if we deem that the penalty is like enough or not. But yeah, the Kyle Larson thing pre Hendrick, that's in its own category.
Yeah.
I do. Okay, yeah, I'll retract that a little bit. I apologize on that.
Yeah, but
Again,
the other reason why I don't think Spire would suspend Hopes of Our a week is because that then potentially puts a toll on their sponsors. Their sponsors, a lot of them are there because of
Hocevar, yeah.
Hosts of Our, not necessarily because of Spire. So
and again, to be fair,
Yeah.
he did say it on a live stream when he was on his own personal time too. It's not like he said it in a media conference in front of
got out
millions
the
of
car
people.
and said it in front of the Mexican fans.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, JP?
I think the penalty fits the crime. I mean, it wasn't right, but I think again the penalty fits the crime.
All right. What about you, Jamie?
So I am fine. Like if they just kept it at the $50,000 mark, I probably would have been kind of looking at them a little side-eyed. But the fact that they're going the extra step and making him.
Oh, we lost Jamie
I
for a
was say, is
second.
it just me or is he extremely quiet?
He just
Yeah,
he just
I think we may have lost Jamie there for a second.
he might be having issues. He'll join us back here in a minute.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go into our next topic. We are now getting into our race recaps from the weekend. IndyCar raced at Gateway Sunday night, and Kyle Kirkwood continues Honda's dominance in the IndyCar series. No other manufacturer has won a race this year.
That's
In
crazy.
IndyCar.
Well, there's only one other manufacturer that could win a race.
Well, that's true. But yes, Kyle Kirkwood got his third win of the season after a couple of drivers tried to play fuel strategy at the end, and it didn't go too well. But the big story coming out of Gateway was Joseph Newgarden's crash. After another, I can't remember the driver, he got loose up into the wall, came down, and Joseph had nowhere to go and just absolutely launched over that car and landed upside down on the track. It kind of reminded me of Scott Dixon's crash in the Indy 500 a few years ago.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about too. Yeah.
Yeah, but Tyler, what were your thoughts on the IndyCar race as a whole at Gateway?
It was like the fact that like Penske and stuff like that have not been able to stop Honda is crazy, and the fact that like all three. No, my takeaway is the fact that like what is going on in the Penske garage in the IndyCar realm. They have been absolutely awful this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, it's like it doesn't help the fact that they just fired their top 3 executives, I believe, at Indy.
Yeah, they fired their GM, their competition director, and one other executive.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it hasn't really affected the NASCAR side is wild, but Penske is struggle. I've never seen Penske struggle this bad in IndyCar.
Well, and you say struggle, but they did have the top 3 spots on lock up until Will Power had his issues early in that race, and the only other driver kind of in the middle of all that Penske dominance was a Penske development driver driving for AJ Foyt.
True, but still, like they just can't catch a break. It's like just spiraling.
Yeah, I mean their luck hasn't been great, but I mean competition directors aren't going to change their luck.
And honestly, before I move on to JP or Ryan, I personally thought the race was actually not bad. Gateway is usually pretty banging race for IndyCars usually.
Yeah, I
Should
caught
be the championship.
I actually kind of have to agree with Ryan there, honestly.
Yeah, I caught like the last 50 laps or so Sunday night, and from what I saw, I was like, this is great. But let's move on to JP.
Also, it was Louis Foster that Newgarden had the crash with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just went and pulled it up real quick to confirm.
I watched the I watched the crash on replay, and I can't believe he's not hurt bad.
Actually, I'm going to add on to that, JP. That is honestly where the sort of the safety of the motorsports in general, and that aero screen. If he didn't have that aero screen, I think he would have been injured pretty badly.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember too the year that Scott Dixon had his crash in the Indy 500 where he flew through the air and into the inside
2017.
catchment. Yeah, 2017. That was the first year of the aero screen too.
Nope, 2020,
No, wasn't it?
2020 was. 2019,
Oh.
2019 was last year without it.
Okay.
Yeah, 2018 they introduced the Universal Aero Kit versus having the manufacturer designed cars.
To
then-
prevent the flips and stuff like that was happening in the years
Yeah.
prior.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
after 2 years of the Universal Aero Kit, they added the 50-pound aero screen onto the top of it, which I think has been, all in all, a very good safety feature.
Also, let me add
Probably
on.
saved Colton Herta's life about 3 different times.
I'm going to add on. Actually, you want to know what's funny? You want to know who developed the aero screen?
Red Bull.
Yep, Red Bull did. And it actually, F1 was looking into the aero screen until they landed on the Halo design, which the Halo is actually underneath the aero screen. It's just there's a screen on top of the Halo.
Yeah.
Yep. Ryan, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I thought it was a really great race. I kind of wish I was a little bit fresher for it, as opposed to having just streamed the 4-hour NASCAR Cup race just before it. But all in all, it was a really good race. And the fact that the leaders kept having the most random issues, like Will Power, I don't even remember exactly what his issue was, but he had an issue early on in the race.
I think he had a
Then
brake issue, I think.
Yeah, then at one point, obviously Joseph Newgarden was trucking along, and then all of a sudden, the next time they cut to him, he is suddenly upside down.
Yeah, I tuned in. I tuned in when you said that on the chat. I'm like, wait, well, what is going on?
But just like watching it, the way they portrayed it through the camera angles in real time, he quite literally, they cut away from him. Cut away from him one moment, and then the next moment he's upside down.
Classic Fox move right there.
Yeah, well, it actually kind of reminded me of a race that I broadcasted at Martinsville one time where I'm like, oh, yep, talking about two guys battling each other, flip around to get to the other camera, and suddenly they were both airborne at Martinsville in NASCAR cars. Thank you, Heat 3 physics.
Yep.
All right, well, speaking of F1, we are going to move on to our next race recap. F1 was in Canada this weekend for the Canadian Grand Prix, and I am going to let Tyler take the reins on this because I did not watch a single lap.
I got to watch a little bit of the race. Actually, George Russell won the race. He actually had one of the fastest cars. Max Verstappen had issues all weekend, and he actually got enough penalty points to where he is on a one-race ban. He is out the next race.
Oh, Max Verstappen not eligible for the following race?
Yep, he accumulated 12 penalty points, which is in FIA terms a one-race ban. And the race was plagued by the weekend was plagued by weather, but not as bad as in Mexico. But F1, it was a great race. And it was a great crowd. It was really hot on race day, so the tires were slick. But George Russell was able to outlast, and Kimi Antonelli finished P5 from having a rough start and fell back to 18th and charged his way through the field to finish 5th.
So if Verstappen is out for the next F1 race, are they just going to park his car, or is someone else going to drive it?
They're going to have a reserve driver do it. I don't remember who their reserve is at the moment.
Wow. Well, before we get into everybody else's thoughts, I would just like to point out that it was just announced today that the Canadian Grand Prix, they signed an extension with F1 to remain on the F1 schedule for the next 10 years through 2035.
Circuit Jill
So with
Villeneuve.
that, with that deal though, I think we should also mention the new date for Canada next year, because I feel like that
Yeah, I was
can't
just
go
saying.
without being mentioned, because
Yep.
that
Yep,
was a little bit of a controversial decision.
Okay.
Yep. Speaking of that, Canada and Monaco are switching places next year in 2026. The Canadian Grand Prix will now take place on Memorial Day Sunday and go head to head against the Indianapolis 500.
That is not a great move on F1's part, honestly, because as
Yeah.
much as F1's growing in the United States, more people are going to watch the Indy 500 over the Canadian Grand Prix, 100%. Nobody's
that
not.
a deal and a half.
And to plus add on the Coke 600, there more people are going to watch the 600 and Indy 500. People are probably going to forget that the Canadian Grand Prix is even running, honestly, in my personal opinion.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
Did you just say more people are going to watch the Coke 600 than Indy 500?
I meant more people are going to watch the Indy 500 and Coke 600 than the F1 race, is what I meant. My bad. I missed.
Okay, yeah, they will both have higher viewership than F1, but Indy will be the crown jewel of the weekend for sure.
Well, see, the thing is this, I hate this decision 100% because, Memorial Day weekend, they call it Motorsports Christmas. You had Monaco at 9 a.m., and then you had the Indy 500 at noon, and then you had the Coke 600 around 6 to 7. You had about an hour and a half to 2 hours in between the end of each race to get whatever you needed to get done before the next race started. And now you got F1 and Indy going head-to-head next year. I hate it.
I don't think they're going head-to-head. I think F1's going to be like right in the middle, like right around 3 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock, right around there.
But you're still going to, there's not a very, as we've kind of talked about with the Kyle Larson trying to get from one to the other, there is not a big window between Indy and Charlotte to try and squeeze in a third race.
Especially with Montreal being further away from Charlotte than Indy is.
Well,
no,
we're talking going to do the triple, but
there's we're
talking about we're talking about like time slot wise. Like if they're doing it like 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's going to be an F1 race going on right at the end of the Indy 500 and into the start of the Coke 600, most likely.
Oh, the F1 race. If it starts at 2 o'clock, the Indy F1 race will be done way before the Coke 600.
Yeah, if it starts at 2, but if it starts closer to like 3 or 4 o'clock,
it'll be like right as the Coke 600 starts.
Then it might run into both. But again, running into the Indy 500 is way bigger than than running into NASCAR, because like they could probably compete head to head with NASCAR at the same time slot, like they've done at a couple of other times,
like with Coda and stuff like that in Miami.
Yeah, but competing with the 500-pound gorilla that is the Indy 500 just is not going to.
You're not going to touch that, especially when FS on Fox, the Indy 500 had average, I believe, of 8.9 million people watching the Indy 500. So,
but can I throw in something here?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Please do.
You had Kyle Larson. I don't think there's no way he can do the double again next year.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's going to do the double next year, but even in the years when it wasn't Kyle Larson doing it, the Indy 500 still brings in massive ratings.
Yeah,
but
there might be a little less NASCAR fan interest in it, but
it's still going to draw in the motorsports fans all around the world.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious to know if someone like a Fernando Alonso potentially, obviously that being a considerable name, might skip Canada to try and run the Indy 500.
Because he's skipped Monaco before to do it.
Yeah, and skipping Canada is a lot less controversial than skipping Monaco.
Yes, but
So,
JP may be onto something though. You know, Tyler, you just said that Indy 500 drew an average of 8.9 million viewers or something, somewhere around that ballpark. That has to do with the Kyle Larson effect.
but even if it dips down to say 6 million, drop of like 2.5 million, it's still outdueling almost every other motorsport outside of
Okay.
Daytona 500.
Okay. So I just looked it up
rating.
real quick before we move on. I just looked up the last Indy 500 that Larson was not in. The 2023 Indy 500 had 4.9 million viewers. The 2024 Indy 500 had 5.3, and then it increased again to almost 9 million on Fox this past year.
Well,
And
that's
I feel
another.
like there was actually less interest from the Kyle Larson effect this year than there was the year before.
Well, there's two factors there.
Different TV provider too.
One last year, yes, Larson was in it, but it was also delayed by 4 hours because of the weather.
Right.
And two, yes, you just hit the nail on the head. It's on Fox this year and not NBC. And Fox is way bigger than NBC as far as
Right.
even though their sports quality sucks, they have way bigger
he's back.
viewership numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention, Fox has been giving an immense amount of coverage. I mean, you've had every single IndyCar race on Network Fox. There's been zero substituting it over onto FS1. So all that build-up's been on Network Fox.
And then when we
they would put stuff on Peacock from time to time.
And now when we get into the NASCAR race, I have some pretty cool. I have some pretty cool numbers to talk about when we get to NASCAR. Actually,
well, we're just about to transition into our NASCAR recap. For the first time ever, the NASCAR Cup Series, which we will get to in just a minute, raced in Mexico. Xfinity was also with them this weekend. They have raced there, but the last time they raced there was in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle Busch won that race. So in the Cup field this weekend on Sunday, Kyle Busch was the only driver to have ever raced on that track that is still active right now, if you think about it. Because Denny Hamlin did not.
Eric Jones raced it?
Yeah, Eric Jones. Yeah, Eric Jones raced it.
Literally, Jamie's trivia question from last week was that Eric Jones had raced it.
Eric Jones and Kyle Busch were the only two that raced that track in previous years.
Yep, I forgot Jamie's trivia question last week.
3 active drivers have raced on that track before, if you count Daniel Suarez, but that's a different.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
if you count drivers who have raced that track before, McDowell has raced sports cars there before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did he? Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, McDowell's run sports cars at that track before, but he just hasn't run a NASCAR event there.
No.
What I was going to say, though, Greg, to be fair, nobody got it right. So,
yeah.
No, but I still remembered the answer this week.
All right, well.
I got it wrong last week. Doesn't mean
Well, we're going to go into our recap, starting with the Xfinity Series. Daniel Suarez is the hometown hero. He started dead last in a backup car after crashing and qualifying and drove all the way to the front after Connor Zilisch had led or been up front most of the race. Connor Zilisch and, was it Ty Gibbs in the 19 this weekend?
Yep.
Yeah, they were caught up in a big melee on a restart. And Connor actually had a shot to maybe get back up to the front, but he ran out of laps. But Daniel Suarez was the hero. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the Xfinity Series race. I personally thought it was fantastic.
I thought it was great, too. And I got to give kudos to Connor Zilisch. After being taken out in that melee to haul through the field like he did, that shows you how much that talent that kid has.
Yep.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, the Xfinity race was great. Yeah, gotta love seeing the hometown kid go and get the win at his home track there. Yeah, after putting in all the PR work to try and help NASCAR build up this race as an event.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I will say some of those wrecks definitely looked a little bit on the silly side. Yeah, especially like the one that took out Zilich and Ty Gibbs and all that. There were cars spinning in every which way, and it's like the track wasn't even wet, so it's not like there was that to blame for why they were having so much trouble through that corner.
I think it was
Yeah.
just arrow with those corners, especially being like transition
Yeah, I
corners with
mean,
transition
it's one of
weight.
those things where you've got big, bulky stock cars trying to race on a track that is built for light, fast F1 cars with high horsepower, and
Mm-hmm.
with NASCAR cars, they're what, like
3,400
five
pounds.
times heavier than an F1 car, probably.
F1 cars weigh about like 1,800 pounds. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, NASCAR cars are at least double the weight of an
Actually,
F1 car.
actually, almost exactly double because it'd be
Yeah.
34 to 36. Yeah, you're right. Also, before we move on, actually, I was going to get from the first 4 races on Amazon Prime before we move on to the Cup have averaged a 2.27 million viewers on Amazon Prime, whereas this time last year, Fox was averaging 2.88 million on FS1 and Fox, but and the viewership peaked at like I'm looking at it right now. Crap. It doesn't say. It was like 5.6 million watched the Coke 600.
Yep.
JP, what were your thoughts on the Xfinity race?
Really happy for Daniel Suarez. I think my bold prediction, I think he's going to carry that momentum and he will win Daytona when we go there in August.
That's a long way to have to carry the momentum for.
I think it's. I don't think JP's too crazy to think that though. He's a pretty good super speedway driver.
I mean, it's just the fact that, again, to carry this momentum for 10 weeks.
Yeah,
I mean,
10 weeks. Yeah,
I mean, he
not to
has
mention,
won
yeah,
on a drafting track before.
Atlanta.
Yeah, he's got Atlanta in the middle there, and then also you just have the pure randomness that does come from Daytona racing in general too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Jamie, what about you, buddy?
Man, I'm having some technical difficulties tonight, guys. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
That's
no
okay.
worries.
You're good.
We're still talking about the Xfinity race,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
right.
Yes.
Okay. I gotta catch a glimpse of it. I didn't get to watch all of it, but from the highlights and recaps that I get to see, it was my first glance at the track, and I knew from pictures that I thought was really cool to see them literally go through a stadium with the pinpoint turns and things like that. And when Daniel Suarez took the lead in both the Cup race and in the Xfinity race, hearing the entire racetrack erupt
It's
was just a phenomenal thing to see.
You want to know what that reminded me of? And Greg he's probably been there for a few of those races. And like when Junior took the lead at Dega a few times, it like crazy. It reminded me of
when
that.
Junior takes a lead at any point in time because everyone's shocked and in awe that he actually got the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm talking specifically Dega
Yep.
because he was so dominant at Dega.
Yeah, I mean, thinking even back to that 2017, his final run at Dega when he took the lead late.
Oh my God, that
even when he got the pole for that race.
Yeah, pole position for that race was also crazy.
I was at Dega in 2015 when he got his last win there, and when he took the lead the very first time, the crowd was going.
2015.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was 2015.
Okay,
Yep.
I was gonna say, 'cause I remember the fall race being an absolute mess.
Yep.
Don't get me
when he
started
took the
on
lead
that.
the first time. When he took the lead the first time, the crowd went nuts, and then those final 15 laps when he was leading, the crowd was dead silent because we were all holding our breaths and biting our nails.
Mm-hmm.
But transitioning to the Cup Series race, Shane Van Gisbergen showed up and showed out. Just absolutely whipped the field. He won the race by 17 seconds, which is the largest margin of victory in the next gen car.
And if you want to go ahead and you want to say it, or you want me to say it? You have to go back. You have to go back to 1994 for not fuel mileage, where somebody won by that large of a margin. It was Jeff Bodine at North Wilkesboro in 1994.
Yep. Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott rounded out the top three. Alex Bowman finally had a resurgence in momentum, finishing fourth. He looked to be maybe a contender for SVG until SVG just started pulling away.
I think
until SVG stopped playing with his food.
Yeah.
True. He was also sick too. Just remember that.
Yeah, that too. But real quick, before we get into the big talking point, what were your guys' thoughts on the first ever Cup Series race at Mexico? Tyler?
I mean, honestly, to be fair, I personally thought it was one of the better road course races in the next gen era. I mean, it still wasn't great, but it was on the better side for a road course race in the next gen. I thought it was a not bad race. It was chaotic as usual on road courses, but also the weather had to also play a fact in the craziness during the race on this Sunday.
Yep. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an all right race. I mean, obviously SVG dominating down the stretch definitely kind of, I feel like took some of the energy out of what could have been a really good run, because he just decided to lay it all out there and just run as fast as possible. In fact, I think I saw the quote from his radio where he was yelling at the crew to stop telling him to go slower.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, yeah, he was laying down as fast a lap times as he possibly could, just trying to drive away from them. And I actually got a little worried seeing him coming up on the back of Cody Ware there, and it's like, if he tries to lap Cody Ware and gets wrecked, that would be hilarious.
I'm going to add on before we go on the GP.
But
I was going to add on thing. I'm going to say this right now. Oh, was it? I forgot what I was going to say. Freaking. I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead, JP.
But real quick before JP, Ryan, I need you to do me a favor.
Yeah.
I need you to call up your boy Kyle Busch and tell him they were not at the Go Bowling at the Glen.
That was good. No, actually, I was going to say Kyle Larson got the fastest lap despite Shane whooping the field.
Yeah. Kyle Larson, after being in the pits for 3 hours, came back out and was able to set that best lap of the night. But
of the day, you mean? Of the day.
Yeah, day, night, regardless. It was late in the day.
Evening.
The sun was already down here.
Evening.
Yeah.
Anyways, JP, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was a good race. I think NASCAR should go back with the Cup guys. So you're going to have difficulties every time you go south of the border or think about leaving the country. But all kidding aside, I thought it was a great race. And we didn't even touch on the travel difficulties that teams had. So.
All right. Well, Jamie, what do you got?
I thought the Cup race was all right. I thought that when it started raining, Austin Cindric and who was the other one that stayed out?
Chris Buescher.
Chris Buescher. I think their teams were super dumb for staying out on slicks. When when it was definitely like downpouring rain. So that was poor judgment call on their part. But I mean, it it turned out all right. I mean, SVG doing SVG type things, like
Mm-hmm.
that's called for what it is. Based off of our bet last week, I got a little worried when I saw Alex Bowman peeking his way up in the third position,
I
getting that
actually
second
thought
position.
I thought Bowman. No, but I got to shout out Bowman though. That was a hell of a run. Pardon my language.
I got a little nervous for a couple laps, but no, I mean, all in all, I think it was a good race. I think it was good for NASCAR, a good experience to branch out and try to do something different and try to get more of a fan base, especially since the Mexico Series has been doing very well down there. I mean, I was kind of telling Tyler, like, I feel like that track is Coda minus the hills. If
Yeah.
you drew out a very
I
flat Coda, that's what that track is.
Well, and
I,
that's
I
what F1 tries to do. I mean, they try to rebuild virtually the same type of track everywhere.
Yep. Speaking of what Jamie said about the fan base, trying to expand and all that, Jeff Gluck posted on his Twitter. There was a fan down there by the name of Oscar, who said that he has been a fan of NASCAR since 2003 and had never ever seen a national touring series race in person until this past weekend.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
Yep. But yeah, JP actually brought up a good point that I forgot about. Shout out to the hauler drivers for
For
their
real, yeah.
committance. They drove from Charlotte to Michigan for the Michigan race last week, and then a secondary hauler came and picked up or swapped out cars in Michigan with the Mexico cars, and then those hauler drivers drove back to Charlotte while the main hauler drivers went from Michigan all the way down to Mexico City, some 32 hours give or take,
Whew.
and then stayed there for the weekend, loaded up the cars, drove back to Charlotte, which they're there now, and are getting ready to load up and go all the way to Pocono this weekend. Those guys are the MVPs.
Speaking of Pocono, actually, before we move on, this is the last race on Amazon Prime before they switch to TNT and Max.
Yep. Same booth, though.
I am sad because I really enjoy Prime broadcasts.
I
Well,
do
that's
too.
kind of the good thing, though, is that because this race is going to be put on by the same NASCAR Productions team that
But it's cable
put on the
television.
Amazon
Cable,
Prime,
though.
so I don't.
Cable, though. It's cable, though. TNT is cable.
Well, yeah, there will definitely be some differences, but for the most part, like the actual making sure that you aren't missing 500 commercial, or that you aren't missing 500 passes due to commercials.
Yep.
I mean,
All right,
yeah,
so
it's gonna be, because like that's gonna be the weird thing with it being a mix of both cable and a streaming service. I'm actually kind of curious to see which one gets more viewership and what the ad breakdown is gonna be like. If you get to watch like 20% less ads on Max compared to TNT.
It's probably going to be the same ad load, but I guarantee you it's not even going to be a question. It's going to be a higher overall viewership on TNT just because it's on cable. There's going to be no fight with that. It's just going to be how much viewership are they going to get on Max. That's the true
Yeah,
question.
but if there are less ad breaks on
Right.
the streaming service, though.
yeah.
Right.
Well, getting into the big talking point about this race, SVG going into the weekend was 33rd in points.
Yeah.
And now that he has the win, he is in the playoffs. And
Yeah,
we
the
saw the
playoff
same
competition.
situation with Harrison Burton last year with his walk-off win at Daytona. He was 32nd in points, and then boom, he's in the playoffs with his win at Daytona.
Yeah.
Is it time for NASCAR to revamp the playoffs and get rid of the whole win and you're in situation? I am not going to give my input because I have given my input time and time again on this. I want you guys to tell me what you think, starting with Tyler.
I don't think they should get rid of the win in your in system, but make it like I actually like what Eric Estep said earlier today. I watched if you guys have watched his video.
Yep.
I kind of like personally think they should like make it top 25 in points win in your in, so there's not people like Cody, like somebody like Cody Ware or something like that can win and make the playoffs and knock somebody out who is more consistent and deserving of a playoff spot.
Not to mention that would give us a great storyline down the stretch of SVG trying to point his way in at the ovals, trying to point his way into the top 25 or even top 30 if they just reinstated the top 30 rule that it used to be. It used to be top 30.
Because if you think about it, the win in your in system's been in since the Chase came in 2004 because it not as prominent as it is now, but the Chase and / playoffs have valued wins more than consistency since 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call BS on that.
Why do you say that?
Ryan Newman almost won the championship in 2014 without winning a single race.
That was one exception, though, to wins being more valuable. I mean, wins as a whole were still more valuable than consistency. It wasn't that you couldn't do it.
I was saying it's not the fact that you can't do it. It's just the fact that it's harder to do.
If you're winning races, you are way more likely to get a championship.
Speaking of Ryan Newman, he had 9 race wins in 2003 and still lost the championship to Matt Kenseth in 2003.
It was 8.
It was 8. Okay.
Yeah. It was 8 wins to Kenseth's 1.
All right. Well, what are your thoughts on this situation, Ryan?
I mean, I will say I feel like this one is going to feel a lot more legitimate because of the way that SVG won. He won in very convincing fashion versus Harrison Burton. It almost felt like the win kind of just fell into his lap more than SVG, who actually took command and controlled the entirety of the race.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that's one thing that feels different. And one of the other things that I've actually suggested a couple of times is that if you aren't going to bring back, say, the top 30 or top 25 points, because I feel like that'd be the simplest one, just up until you need 2 wins to lock in. That way your road course ringers and even your super speedway guys have multiple opportunities to try and get there. And once you get that first win, you can have that extra motivation to be like, hey, all we need is one more win and we're in.
I kind of like that, actually. But I do like
the number of road courses on the circuit, and even thinking back to, like, you know, one of the other more fluky win in your in situations of Stenhouse in 2017, he did win 2 super speedways that year, so even with a 2-win requirement, he would have been in because he would have done what was required. So it's not impossible.
Yep. I mean, I could see that. I will add on to that. You know, make it 2 wins, and you have to be top 25 in points.
I feel like one, if you win 2 races and aren't top 25 in points, I feel like there's a major question mark going on. But I feel like you don't need both. I feel like one or the other could be enough to legitimize the playoff format enough to where you don't have a whole lot of undeserving drivers getting in. I mean, at most you'll have 1 wild card driver who picked up 2 wins. You aren't going to have 2 or 3 drivers from outside the top 25 winning 2 races a year.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you guys know my standpoint on the win and you're in. You know, we talked about it a lot after Burton's win last year. Other than that race, he was irrelevant all year.
Yeah.
And he was a first round out in the playoffs.
Yeah.
SVG, as much as I love him, and yes, he won the race in convincing fashion and all that good stuff. He has not been very good on ovals, minus the 14th place finish at Charlotte. I guarantee you he is
great building speed, and I feel like by next year maybe he will be halfway decent on the ovals, but If he
Maybe.
does rack up another win or two with the other road courses this summer,
I think
he
he'll-
could
but
have the playoff points
I
to actually survive the first round.
well, I was gonna say if he does win a couple more road courses before the playoffs, then maybe. But if he doesn't, he is going to be a first round out in the playoffs, and that is going to be a playoff spot that is taken up by someone who doesn't really need to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, but also, I mean, think about the amount of money that is made by, yeah,
the difference of
Right.
millions. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a massive money game
Mhm.
because, like, I mean, I've heard it said a lot of times, like, yeah, Ryan Priest probably would be a one and done as well in the playoffs, barring some good luck.
All right, let's get Jamie's thoughts. He's got his hand up there.
I'm acting like I'm in school because I can't get a word in edgewise between y'all. Now I'm loving the back and forth. SVG. What? Does anybody off the top of their head without looking it up know what his average finish is?
Not off the top of my head, no. I think it's like 22 or something, I think, if I remember correctly.
I think it's lower than that. I'm going to say about 24.7.
I'm going to say 27.2.
His average finish right now is 27.8.
Point proven.
If
His average finish is 23.75. His average finish, his average start is 27.8. His average finish is 23.75.
No, his average starting position is 23.75, Ryan.
I am literally looking at it right here on my phone.
As am I.
I will screenshot it and send it in our group chat here.
Sure, I can do the same. Here we go.
It's actually, Jamie is right, it's 27.5. Where were you looking, Ryan?
NASCAR's app. I went to NASCAR's app and pulled up the thing. They've got his average finish listed as a 23.75.
So
I think
they got it backwards.
I'll take NASCAR's app over Google's AI filling in the blank because I mean I could definitely believe AI getting it backwards, but I would trust NASCAR's app to have the right answer.
Anywho,
Just for sake of argument's sake, let's say it is 23. You're having a driver who averages outside the top 20 in each race, who now has a guaranteed spot in the playoff.
mm-hmm.
As much as I like SVG, as much as I am in awe of his road course racing skills, the fact that on any given race on a road course, he can beat the brakes off of any driver on this planet. Until he gets more driving under his belt and can put up top 20, top 15 finishes, it's tough for me to say, hey, I'm glad SVG is in the playoffs as opposed to maybe a Bubba Wallace.
Well, Bubba Wallace isn't the one that he bumped out. Looking at the guy he bumped out.
I'm not saying right now, but there's a world that Bubba Wallace could have a couple bad races, and he's the one on the outside looking in.
Well,
I'm just throwing out a driver of that caliber. I mean, we could say Kyle Busch. We could say, who else is right around that bowl?
Well, Ryan Priest, the guy that he did bump out of the playoffs with this win.
Well, I'm not including Ryan Priest, because who would you rather see on the track, Ryan Priest or Shane Van Gisbergen?
I honestly would rather see neither because neither one of them really are.
That's not an answer. That's not an answer. Pick one.
So hold on.
I would, as much as I love SVG, I would probably have to pick Priest because he has the oval experience.
I mean,
mainly short tracks.
If you're NASCAR and you're looking at who's going to be the biggest drawing point,
That
for
is
your
true.
players.
That is true.
That's the point that I'm making. That's the one benefit to the win you're in system, but at the same time, there's the other side where, yes, you get the drawing point of SVG in there, but it could knock out a Kyle Busch. It could knock out another guy who has been in the conversation in the top 20, top 15 consistently, and just hasn't been able to crack that win.
Yeah.
That's my point.
All right.
Well, let's see what Kyle Busch's average finish is at right now.
All right.
Okay, 18th, not terrible.
40th.
All right. Before we continue, it's getting almost to the 50-minute mark. We're getting a little long. We should do our first ad break. Or first ad read.
Go ahead.
So thank you to our sponsor tonight, Circle B. Use our what was it? What was the code? Use the code LAPDOWN for $5 off.
Circle B Diecast promo code LAPDOWN at checkout for $5 off.
All right, let's continue.
All right. So JP, did you have any thoughts, real quick?
Yeah. Okay. So I do agree with you guys. SBG is a good workhorse racer, but show me what you got on the oval. And when we go back to Atlanta, I think SBG will get his second win of the year.
You,
Wow.
What are you on?
he's on,
Tyler, when this gets uploaded, please clip that. We need that to go viral.
Yeah, that needs to be a clip.
I'm going to. I'll make sure that's clipped.
I cannot believe that was just said.
I
Wow.
cannot.
Granted, didn't JP have Corey LaJoy as his championship pick for this year?
Last year.
Did he say Atlanta?
No,
He picked Josh Berry to win the championship last year.
No, he picked LaJoy last year and Barry this year.
What race was it?
No, last year he picked LaJoy for this year because he picked LaJoy with the anticipation that he was going to have, that LaJoy was getting Harvick's crew chief.
What race was it?
What was that, Jamie?
What was the race that he's going to win?
Atlanta next week.
So I feel like we should do another bet between Greg and JP, since Greg, there's a good chance that you're probably going to be at that race.
I will be at the Xfinity race. I will not be at the Cup race.
I'll make a bet. I can see SVG winning Watkins Glen.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he wins Watkins Glen or is at least in the mix at Watkins Glen.
Wow, I was grabbing from low-hanging fruit there.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Right,
Okay, so
right on.
I'm gonna say this right now.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Here's the bet. I got SBG winning Atlanta. Tyler, you got SBG winning Watkins Glen.
I that's the only other road course before the playoffs I could see him actually having. I don't think he's going to have a shot at Sonoma. It's just.
I think Chicago is probably his best shot to win.
Chicago or Watkins Glen are his two best shots, but I don't think he's going to win at Sonoma because the drivers are in the field to put way too many laps at Sonoma and Watkins Glen.
How confident are you on that pick?
I was going to say Tyler gets a 5-point deduction and I get a 5-point increase.
I will. Oh
No, we're not doing points. We're not doing points. Tyler, how confident are you on your choice?
for Watkins Glen, I'm going to say about 80% confident.
Okay, so because you're that confident, if he does not win that race, the very next podcast that we have, you have to be in a banana costume.
I will do it because I will be at Watkins Glen too.
Okay.
I will be
If
at
he does not win, Tyler is in a banana costume. We all win.
I mean,
JP.
I could have do Fred. Why couldn't you chose Freddie Flintstone? Because I have a Fred Flintstone costume sitting right next to me.
JP, who is
No,
the driver
not
you
banana.
dislike the most?
Yeah. Who is the driver I dislike the most? You're probably gonna hate me for saying this. Alex Bowman.
Okay.
Why
How
do
does
Okay.
anybody hate Bowman?
Why do you hate?
Okay. Okay. Number one, the Bowman hate is forced. Number two, if SVG does not win Atlanta next week, you have to dress in full Bowman gear
I want to
on
see it.
the next on a future podcast.
Okay.
I might just wear the banana suit just because, even if he doesn't win, honestly, because that sounds like fun.
All right. Anyways, we're getting way off track here.
Anyway, let's get.
We're gonna reel it back a little bit. We're
I'm
gonna
not-
move into our green flags and black flags segment. For our new listeners, green flags is something during the race weekend that we liked, and black flags is something that we did not like. And because there was so many races over the weekend, this can apply to any racing series. And we'll kick it off with Tyler.
I'm honestly going to give my green flag to. Actually, I have two green flags. One is for the Xfinity race in Connor's Village after being nearly taken out in that one big melee to charge back through the field. And to Alex Bowman for having a hell of a finish. He needed that. And my black flag, honestly, my black flag is honestly, I don't know. I don't. My black flag is Penske Racing and IndyCar series.
All right. What about you, Ryan?
For my green flag, I'm gonna give it to. I'll go ahead and give it to the NASCAR teams for actually being able to overcome. Because something else JP kind of mentioned that kind of got blown right over was the teams having trouble with their planes in Charlotte to the point where I believe was it the Spire and Haas teams that both had to road trip to Atlanta to catch a commercial flight to Mexico so that they could actually get there on time.
And
So,
I think
massive credit.
I think it was Trackhouse too, because Shane. It was Trackhouse too.
Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, I knew it was Haas and a couple of other teams all had to road trip it to Atlanta to try and catch a commercial flight because the pre-prepared planes were not working. So, massive credit to the teams for being able to pull that one off and actually getting to the track. And for the black flag, I'll give it to the weather for taking out my boy Kyle Busch. Because the rain definitely ended what could have been. Because like between Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and AJ Allmendinger, three guys all affected in that wreck. I mean, that right there are your contenders to try and contend with SVG. I mean, those are your guys who have the skills to keep up with SVG on these road courses. And all three of them were basically out of contention within that first wreck.
Yep. What about you, Jamie?
So, my green flag goes out to Daniel Suarez.
I respect
for
that.
the amount of pressure that he has been put under for the past 2 to 3 months in preparation for this weekend. To finally be able to go home, do all the media things, do all the practices, do all of what it comes to being the literal hometown country hero, and to go out there and get a win in the Xfinity race in front of your home country, in front of your family, in front of your friends, in front of everyone who has supported you and all your sponsors. Good for you. Very, very happy for Daniel Suarez. Very, very happy for Junior Motorsports for having the smarts to get the hometown guy in one of their race cars. And just creating that magical moment that we were all hoping to have. My black flag. First time in lap down history, my black flag goes to me. Because I cannot pick a good driver at all this year.
I've noticed that, Jamie.
I mean, granted, your first driver got taken out the race before it even began.
I think it's just Jamie's luck this season.
There's no such thing as a dire curse in 2025. It's the Jamie trembles. Or
What are you
come up with a
talking
new
about? There's
cliche
totally the
for it.
dire curse. Christopher Bell finished all the way back in what? Second, third?
It's the Jamie Jitters.
The Jamie jitters. That's what we're calling it. Somehow, some way, Kyle Larson felt the Jamie jitters.
Yeah,
and
Christopher Bell.
Christopher
Bell finished all the way back in second place. I mean, come on, that's got to be a curse.
Yeah.
I mean, I had AJ. He got taken out in the when Kyle Busch decided to go bowling.
Yeah, but he still
yeah,
came back to finish 13th, though.
Yep.
I knew I was in trouble when I saw Kyle Larson's car literally bouncing off of the asphalt.
So.
Yep.
I do have another thing I want to mention when we get through all the all the green and black flags.
All right. JP, what about you, bud?
Alright, so my black flag, let's go there. Black flag goes to the unfortunate communication. SBK should not be having to tell the team to be quiet on the radio.
Really?
I mean, that's pretty normal communication when you have that kind of lead. The team is always telling you, hey, back it down. We don't need you turning into what Noah Gregson at Homestead was a couple years ago when he was leading by, 15 seconds before running into the back of David Starr?
Yeah, but
JP, you need to lay off some of the nose candy, buddy.
alright. For my
I'm
good
keeping that in. I'm keeping that in.
Alright. For my good flag, it also goes to SPG for not giving up even when the team was on him like a bat out of you know what to not lose his focus and make a mistake.
What?
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to hold.
I'm
So your
sorry.
black flag and your green flag both go to SVG.
No, I'm still laughing at Tyler's comment. Anyways, so I have two green flags. I have three green flags. Number one goes to the fans for showing up to the races this weekend in Mexico. Great crowds all the way around for both races. Number two, either NASCAR or the track promoters, whoever decided to, like Jamie said, have them run through the stadium section in between the two grandstands and give the fans a full view of the cars. That was amazing, even to see on TV.
They already do that for F1 the way the track's laid out, so.
Well, I've never watched an F1 Mexico race, so.
That makes sense, yeah.
Number three goes to the AMR safety crew that was there at Joseph Newgarden's car when he was upside down right as the car was coming to a rest. Like they were there in less than 3 seconds after that crash occurred. So props to the AMR safety crew.
Got to shout them out for last week too at Michigan too as well for how fast they were at Alec Bowman's.
Yeah. My black flag, I didn't really think about a black flag, but I guess I'll give it to Kyle Busch again for going. I mean, I guess you can Maybe I would say maybe you could say it was a green and a black flag because he did get a strike. So
Which course you have, like the whole ball games?
It was a strike, right?
I mean, if you really think about it, Kyle Busch is bowling a perfect game this season.
Well, hopefully he has time to spare.
Oh man, I don't know.
That was good.
And I only say that because Ryan's expression never ever changed during that whole segment right there.
Oh my goodness, the fact that as soon as you said that, Ryan's face shifted from a smile to just a death stare, just had me done.
All right, before we go too much longer, it is now time for our preview segment. They are racing at. Oh, I'm sorry. You had something else. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one other thing that kind of got buried by the news from this evening. Of kind of the story we didn't really get to was the Cars Notice of our Ricky Stenhouse Part 2 that happened towards the end of that Mexico race as well.
There's some.
Yep.
You should watch some TikTok and watch some of those edits by NASCAR. It's actually freaking funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this does feel like strike 2 now that where Hocevar and Stenhouse are now getting into each other.
We have three. We have
it being
we have a month and a half until
Hocevar on the dealing end, and Stenhouse just being the was way more in this case. It was way more Stenhouse was the innocent bystander.
Yeah.
We have a month and a half until Go Bowling.
And have Kyle Busch as the special referee.
That'd be funny.
What was that, Jamie?
So Kyle Busch is the special.
At this point, we need to put them in a wrestling ring and make Kyle Busch a special referee.
Can we get a partnership with WWE for that one?
Check out
somebody call him Triple H.
Kyle Busch has won the WWE belt before, or so.
But honorable mention though, how cool was it to see like an actual like podium stage for the drivers?
That was cool. That was awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we at least mentioned the host of our Stenhouse thing, especially on the off chance that something happens here at Pocono where someone gets revenge.
Somebody's going to get revenge. Anyway, let's move on to the Tricky Triangle.
Yep. Speaking of that, they are racing at the Tricky Triangle this weekend. 3 turns. What turn 4? And we're going to make our picks. I have our names on the wheel right here, ready to go. And the first pick that it lands on will be Jamie.
Fuck. Pardon my language.
Cool. So, who's gonna be the one that gets taken out early this week?
Where's Jason Belmonte when you need him?
Well, I'm gonna try and double down and just see if it happens to change anything. Kyle Larson.
All
Took
right.
my pick, turd.
Next pick lands on Ryan.
All right. Well, I get to pick from close to the entire field. Unfortunately, Kyle Larson is off the board, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and I think that Denny Hamlin's gonna have something to prove this weekend. Pocono is one of his typically better tracks, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that Denny Hamlin goes ahead and bounces back from his week off into a Pocono weekend here.
I respect that.
All right.
I respect that.
Yep. Speaking of Denny Hamlin, congrats on the birth of his daughter.
His son.
His son. Yeah, I'm sorry. His son. He was not in Mexico this past weekend. Ryan Truex did fill in for him, but Denny and Jordan are enjoying their new baby. Hope they're doing well, actually. All right, next pick goes to me. I am going to say that this driver carries his momentum from Mexico. I'm taking the 48 of Alex Bowman,
Okay. Okay.
who has won at Pocono before.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, next pick.
Rookiest win of all time.
Next pick goes to Mr. JP.
Alright. It's going to be a fun bit of a week. I'm going with Grades and Jordan. This might come back about me, but SPG.
Wait, you think SPG is winning at Pocono now? What?
I need to. This is the best episode ever.
JP, you just said he was getting his next win at Atlanta in 2 weeks. And now you're saying he's going to win before
As I
Atlanta?
said, as I said, JP, you need to lay off the nose candy, buddy.
Wow.
Anyway, spin the wheel. I know it's
Anywho,
me.
last pick goes to Tyler.
I'm going with my boy Chase Elliott.
All right. All right. We'll get the rest of the picks later on this week. Before we close the show out, since Mr. Jamie is with us tonight, we're going to go into another rousing edition of Jamie's Trivia. And as always, Jamie will ask us a trivia question and we will give our guesses. If one of us gets it correct, we get a bonus point for our race picks total. If we get it wrong, Jamie gets the bonus point. So, Jamie, fire away.
All right, so per usual, no Googling, no AI algorithm, no chat GBT, no way of cheating. You must use it based off of your good old noodle, the old brainwave maker.
What brain? I'm kidding.
On this date, this exact date of June 17th, NASCAR had a Pocono race. Who won the 2001 Pocono 500?
That's not fair. I wasn't alive.
Not my fault.
2001 Pocono 5.
Oh, I go get first.
All right.
I already know. I think
JP should go first.
It is the old cloud climber of what is his name?
You
He
thinking
no
of
longer
Jeremy Mayfield?
Jeremy Mayfield.
he wasn't into 12 in
Incorrect.
2001.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Actually, I
JP
think
gets it wrong.
I think I have my guess.
Hey, can we stop talking over people, please?
Sorry. My guess is. Oh, sorry. Jeff Gordon.
Incorrect.
Damn.
Ryan?
I'm not sure. It's a tough one. I'll give you credit. It's a really tough question here.
Back-to-back weeks. Let's go.
Let's see. Pocono 2001. Let's go ahead and say, did Kurt Busch win it?
He did not.
Didn't think so.
Kurt Busch got his first one in 2002.
Okay.
All right, Greg.
I'm torn between two.
Yeah, I didn't think it was right, but
I think I'm
going to say Bobby Labonte.
Incorrect.
I think it. Who was it?
are we gonna give
winner?
JP another guess since Mayfield wasn't even in the 12 at that point? Or was Mayfield even in the race at that point?
He was in. No, he was not.
Let me.
Because he would have been. Because he didn't go to the 19 in 2002 till 2002. Casey Atwood was in the 19
Jeremy
in
Mayfield
2001.
was in the race.
So should we give JP another guess since he guessed someone who wasn't even in the field?
Jeremy Mayfield was in the race.
Oh, he was in the race. Okay, never
He
mind.
was.
Who was it?
All right. So what's the answer?
The winner of the 2001 June 17th Pocono 500 was the driver of the number 28 Havoline, Ricky Rudd.
All right.
Okay.
Jeff
I'm
Never-
Gordon was second.
Never would
was-
have guessed Ricky Rudd.
The reason I said I was thinking Jeff Gordon because he went on a freaking tear in the summer of 01. That's why I was thinking that.
And to be fair, Jeff Gordon also led the most laps in that race with a total of 86 laps ran.
So my guess was pretty damn good. Okay, I'll take it.
It was.
Do you guys, real quick before we close out, do you guys want a chance to earn a bonus point maybe?
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm down.
Because I had a trivia question pulled up just in case Jamie was not here.
All right.
What do you got?
Alright.
Craig?
So at Pocono Raceway, Bill Elliott and Ken Schrader are tied for the most poles in Pocono Raceway history. How many do they have?
I'll go
Tyler.
first, then I'll.
All right, JP, go first.
I'll say 8.
Okay. Jamie.
Ooh, that's this is a good one, Greg. Actually, ooh.
Shut up, JP. That doesn't help.
me and Jamie are literally like, oh my.
I'm gonna go with 5.
All right. Ryan.
What guesses were made so far? I heard 5.
8 and 5.
All right. I'll go with 6.
I'm gonna go
Okay.
with
Tyler.
I'm gonna go with 9.
All right. The correct answer for the second week in a row, Jamie gets the bonus point. It is 5.
All right.
No.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
Lord knows I can't pick drivers, but I can answer trivia questions.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for our show tonight. As always, a big thank you to all of our sponsors. As mentioned earlier, Circle B Diecast. Use the promo code LAPDOWN at checkout for $5 off your order. And our other sponsors, Smackin' Sunflower Seeds, Century PC, Sleeves,
Fubo TV.
Dr. Squatch, Fubo TV. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this podcast and all of our other podcasts. Please be sure to check out our other podcasts, The Hard Count, Dirt and Turf, Biscuits and Penalties, and The Social Slam.
And Passing the
But
Big
until,
Skin. Also, thank you for the Acolyte Project.
Yep, the Acolyte Project too. But until next time, I am Greg, and for Tyler, Ryan, JP, and Jamie, this has been the Lap Down, and we will see you guys right after Pocono.
Deuces.
Deuces.
This is...
This is.